It's Ringside Report MMA. Tonight on the show, we preview UFC London, Aspinall versus Tybura. Khamzat Chimaev will be fighting Paulo Costa. And we have a UFC lightweight title fight. That's official. We'll tell you who Islam Makhachev will be defending the belt against. Where's AJ?
Let's go!
Where is he? Is he here? Do we have him? What the heck is going? What is that? Why? Why do you have swords? Hey, man. All right.
Listen, forget about all that crap, man. Today is a very important day. Forget about the light heavyweight. Forget about the UFC. Forget about that, man.
Think about that. This is an MMA show. I don't want to do that.
I know.
We should probably
but we're
stick
gonna talk
with the fights. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Nah, screw that. The most important thing of today is the original mixed martial artist, the one, the only, right
AJ
here, my friend.
Delesio.
The Dragon, man. 50 years today, he passed away. Think about it, Dave. Bruce Lee. 50 years ago today, the original mixed martial artist, man. And if you look at the stuff that he was doing back then, man, he had everything. For sure, everybody thinks of him of his kung fu days, hence the swords. But most important is all the stuff that this guy was training, man. He was training jiu-jitsu. He went to Brazil. He was training with Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai. The guy did it all, man. And the thing is that he was able to incorporate everything at the time and become the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Bruce Lee, man. 50 years.
Mixed martial artist of all time? I would disagree with that.
I mean,
he never did mixed martial arts.
Well, he did when he was fighting back then.
Not what MMA actually is.
It would be considered MMA in its sense back then. But I'm going to tell you something. I learned a lot of interesting things today about Bruce Lee, man. Think about this. I'm going to ask you a question. If George St. Pierre was giving you privates, how much would he charge you per hour? Just think of that. How much, honestly, like a realistic figure?
10 grand?
No, private 1 hour session. Let's be honest.
For now?
Yeah, now.
Why
for
would
an hour.
He do it with anybody? Some random guy?
Yeah, say
that's
some
not
random
a pro fighter that he knows that he's helping out. I would say at least 5 to 10 grand for an hour with.
What?
I mean, why not? Yeah. You know how much he's made off fighting?
Yeah, I know, but I think I don't think the guys. I'm sure he trains George privately, but I don't think.
Do you think you could get a private lesson from George St. Pierre? Yeah, I don't think he offers that. It's not something he does. He's not a coach.
But if he did, somebody wanted to train with George for about an hour, I'd say he probably.
Quibbling with the number? Why are you asking me this silly question?
Well, because I thought you would go more realistically and say maybe $1,000 or $2,000 or whatnot. Maybe $1,000. I would see $1,000 per hour. Okay. Listen to this. So back in 1960, okay, think about this. 1960.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee was charging privates. Back in the days, he was charging 275 bananas per hour. That's equivalent to today, let's say about, I'd say around 2000, 2005. Yeah, around 2005, 2006. Back in 1960, he was charging $275 for his privates. Incredible, man. Incredible.
You got to see his privates for $275? What kind of business was this guy in?
Well, you're crazy, dude. But I'm going to tell you, I think it's impressive, man, that people were willing to pay $275 an hour to do private lessons with Bruce Lee.
Well, he was probably the world's most famous martial artist at the time. I figured $275 is a bargain.
Not at all, man. He wasn't the most famous guy. He was more famous. No, you're wrong there, Dave. He was more famous when he died, to be honest.
Okay.
Before he was known, but not as known as he was after he passed away. And I think it was Enter the Dragon that was released, and then he became just an international superstar. But he had a lot of hard time getting to where he was, right?
Whoever won Olympic gold in wrestling in Bruce Lee's weight category during that time probably would have whooped Bruce Lee's ass, if we're being honest.
Listen, he was a very good wrestler too, man. Very good wrestler. And yeah, he
Olympic
was.
caliber. I mean, we've seen wrestling is so useful in real fighting because you could dictate where the fight takes place. And if you're a really high-level wrestler, I mean, look at the best fighters that we have today in the UFC and the best fighters that have kind of dominated the sport over the past 20, 30 years now. A lot of them have been wrestlers, primarily wrestlers.
Right.
Not a lot of guys doing Jeet Kune Do are translating over to MMA. I mean, no disrespect, but it's just like you see who is out there dominating. You see guys like Khabib. You see guys like Islam Makhachev. You see guys like Kamaru Usman, George St. Pierre, long runs at the top of the sport. John Jones. It's all wrestling, you know? So I think Bruce Lee was cool and all, but I'm not like a mark for Bruce Lee like you are. I'm not a big Bruce Lee fan. I think it's a generational thing. I didn't grow up with Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee to me is just like a, you know.
What's interesting?
I wasn't alive when Bruce Lee was alive, so he died decades before I was born, so I can't.
1973, dude, and
yeah,
think about this.
Like a
you know,
decade
50 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago, dude. Today, man. Today is his anniversary of his death.
What I'm saying is, I don't have any affinity towards Bruce Lee. Like, I think whatever, it's cool, but I'm not a guy to wear Bruce Lee t-shirts or get all excited about Bruce Lee. I'm more interested in guys like Gene LaBelle or Dan Gable or guys like that.
I agree with you.
I'm
on
more
that.
interested
and they had
in
a lot of
the
respect
wrestlers, the grapplers. I always have been. That's what I gravitate towards. I like the old-timey, you know.
But he was a grappler too, man, and that's
Dave
what
Schultz,
you don't realize.
You know what I mean? These guys.
Listen, Bruce Lee was a grappler, man, and a wrestler, and he studied it. Listen, man, he studied grappling like intensively. Mm-hmm. And I'm just gonna say one thing. I agree with you because you're not from that era. But I was listening to a podcast between like Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo, and Eddie Bravo, like, you know, one of the greatest grapplers today. You know, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, Eddie Bravo. What he was saying was pretty interesting. He was talking about Bruce Lee and how much like respect he has for Bruce Lee, and he loves it. And he has his little kid, and he puts his little kid in karate, and they do nunchucks and whatnot. And he's so impressed with his little kid doing karate. And his kid is so impressed about martial arts. So, you know, Eddie Bravo decided one day he was going to show him the greatest nunchuck artist of all time, which is Bruce Lee. No one can do nunchucks like he does, like weaponry and whatnot. So Eddie Bravo says, you know what, I'm going to make my kid
from the Ninja Turtles was pretty good.
True. Good point. Probably second best in the world.
Better,
you got a good point. I'm not sure, man.
To me, he's the king of nunchucks.
And pizza. But listen, Eddie Bravo goes, listen, so I wanted to introduce like Bruce Lee to my kid, which he did. And the kid went wild, man. And he just went into Bruce Lee. And I was listening to the conversation, and I'm like, man, his kid doesn't realize that his dad today in 2023 is one of the best grapplers, one of the most dangerous martial artists you can find, you know, alive. You know, but what really impressed me was the way Eddie Bravo was giving so much respect to Bruce Lee and his accomplishments. And myself as a martial artist, you know, training since I was 7 years old, you know, I've got like, you know, some of my stuff and whatnot. I studied Kung Fu as well for 20 plus years. I'm just going to say this, Dave. You know, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm a wrestling guy. I love it all. But I've read a lot of like Bruce Lee's like books and his like his ways of fighting and that, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, you know, back in that time in the 60s and 70s, Bruce Lee was a beast. Man, his physical like attributes were incredible. I mean, this guy, think about it, Dave. I would like to see if George St. Pierre is listening. George, if you're listening, this is a challenge to you. Bruce Lee used to do 50 one-hand, you know, chin-ups, 50 one-arm chin-ups in a row. I'm telling you right now, I don't even think George St. Pierre can do that. And if George is listening, 50 one-arm chin-ups, and if you beat Bruce Lee, well then, you know, well, you are pretty much a legend of your time. But
I just did that
just to go show you.
No problem.
51 arm?
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you this. That shows you how powerful this guy was.
Okay.
And in fact, you know, like everything that he did. Listen, Dave, you got to give respect. Today's 50 years, man, for Bruce
50
Lee.
Years
There's
since the guy
a lot of Bruce
died.
Lee fans
I
out there.
understand. You're very excited about Bruce Lee.
I am
it's
excited.
cool.
And
but
it's
I know if I
important that
let
all
you,
kids
you're
have
going to go on and on
all
night
but
about
it's
Bruce Lee.
To respect the guy, man.
Yeah,
the guy
cool.
has accomplished so much that 50 years later, Here we are still talking about him. And it's important to recognize that he was the first mixed martial artist. In fact, so good that he's in like the UFC, like what is it, PlayStation and all that kind of stuff games. I seen it, man. Bruce Lee, 50 years today. Rest in peace. Respect, dude. Even Eddie Bravo, everybody, man. George St. Pierre gives respect.
Grimskull watching us on Kick says, I have the Tao of Jeet Kune Do on my bookshelf.
That's right.
Miss Brooklyn Lizard watching us on YouTube says, wow, Bruce Lee. Johnny North watching us on YouTube says, welcome back, AJ. Enjoy your vacation, Fred. Yeah, Fred is not here. He's on a vacation, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure. He's got things. He's, Fred.
He went to a hedonism.
Well, you weren't here last week because you were scared of a tornado or something. And
listen, man, I was stuck in that stupid tornado. I was listening to you guys. I couldn't even get up because the power. Dude, it was, I'm telling you, man, the only thing that wasn't flying was cows, but I saw everything else flying. It was crazy.
Let me tell you something. More importantly, my parlay won. So that's really
yes,
the
you did.
main
Congratulations,
story.
Man.
The main story out of the show last week is that my parlay won. So that was a good one. It was 20 to get you 60-something over at bet99.com. Use that promo code Ringside when you sign up to bet99.com. We have, I gave you Nazim Sadikov and Francisco Prado, and Prado smashing through the Otman last weekend. Otman Azatar got demolished. It was a second round, it was a first round, right? TKO in the first round. The Otman got steamrolled by my man Francisco Prado, and that was kind of a pick-em fight. So happy with that pick. And Nazim Sadikov, very impressive second-round rear naked choke win over Terrence McKinney. Sadikov coming out of that Team Sarah Longo in New York. Very good team. Of course, so many great fighters coming out of there. In the past, right? I mean, Matt Serra, the first champion out of that gym. Chris Weidman, another champion out of that gym. They currently have Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. Aljamain is a champion in the bantamweight division, and Merab is one of the top contenders. And now they have this guy, Nazim Sadikov, who looked pretty impressive coming in at 155 pounds. So he might be their prospect at 155 now. But that gym has had so many good fighters over the years. One of the most consistent gyms over the years, because not too many gyms last through the eras of MMA. Like, gyms have their guy, their era, and then they kind of disappear and they're not, you don't see them as much. There was a time when, you look at the Hammer House MMA or the Pat Miletich MMA camps. Like, they were everywhere, right? And you don't see them as much. There was a time when the Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn crew was just dominating MMA, and you saw them at every single fight, every single UFC. They had multiple fighters there. Everybody wanted to train there. You don't see them as much anymore. And, of course, one of their top fighters, Holly Holm, in the main event last weekend, she went down to Mayra Bueno Silva. A very nice choke there. They call it a ninja choke, kind of a modified guillotine choke. Really sweet submission there over Holly Holm. But you look at that Sarah Longo team, that Ray Longo, he has managed to run through the eras, and you can see why when he's in the corner, You get a guy like that talking to you in the corner, get him, kill him, fucking destroy him, like he is a cool guy. That Ray Longo, and he's got something. He's obviously got something because that gym has stood the test of time.
He's like an old pit bull.
Champions throughout the years. I mean, to have three champions in the different eras, right? Matt Serra, Chris Weidman, and Aljamain Sterling. And these guys, they beat some pretty tough guys to become champions, like Serra beat George, Weidman beat Anderson, Aljamain beat Piotr Yan, and he keeps on beating people. So it's a very impressive gym, and they had a new guy on the UFC roster, Nazim Sadikov. And as soon as I saw he was with that gym, I was like, yeah, they're pretty good. They know what they're doing over there as far as MMA. If you're in that area, I would recommend them. That's a good team.
Listen, I didn't get a chance to see it, but how was the submission?
Which one? In the main event?
No, in Nazim.
It was very nice. Like rear naked choke. He beat him up and slapped in the choke, got on his back. I mean, it was, it was nice. It was all right. But McKinney was like beat up. Sadikov dominated him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy had a pretty impressive record before that. He was like 13-5 going in. So I was like on the cusp on that one.
13-5. Who, McKinney?
Yep.
Sadikov was like 8-1, now 9-1 or something. I
now
think.
he's 9-1. Yeah, he's 9-1.
And he'd won
So
8 in a row. Whenever I see that, like 8-1, 9-1, and the 1 is your first fight in MMA, and then you've won every other fight after that, it's like, okay, he had a little bit of a thing in the first one. That happens a lot. A lot of fighters lose their first
Charles
fight,
Oliveira.
and then they go on ridiculous runs where they win like 20 fights in a row.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, what I'm trying to say is, like, Charles Oliveira is a good example, man. If you looked at his record in the early days of UFC, you'd be like, this guy is just an average fighter. But, sometimes it's the nerves, sometimes it's the training camps. You don't have, like, the best ingredients. But as soon as you start getting those ingredients, you become a much better fighter. You're just able to study your opponents better. There's so many things that can get you to that win. And a lot of times it's nerves. Sometimes you overperform. You put too much pressure on yourself and you lose. We saw that with George as well, right? Talking about Matt Serra. Matt Serra, that was a great example where George lost that fight. George he kind of lost focus, right? To Matt Serra within that fight.
Who knows what happened in that fight?
He lost focus. Listen, I'm going to just say one thing. He became a bit too comfortable. But that's the thing. Sometimes you need people to bring you back on track, and that's what George did. The loss humiliated him.
Yeah,
and then he got the right.
There was other things going on possibly the night before the fight for George.
There was a lot,
I think there was maybe some partying going on in Vegas. Yeah, there was a lot going on. He maybe didn't come into the fight.
I think there's a lot of partying all the way to Vegas. Making its way from Montreal to Vegas. Dude. Yeah, George was living la bella vita, man.
I think he kind of underestimated him that night, and then he never made that mistake again.
Listen, but
it was
again,
a good learning experience for George.
But listen, let's not forget this is Matt Serra, and Matt Serra is one of my favorite fighters of all time. The guy is a beast. He is a real pit bull. So to go in with a guy like Matt Serra, you better be prepared. He's no cakewalk. Matt Serra could take down a lot of guys even today. I'm just saying, Matt Serra is a beast. So his victory to me was because he worked hard for that. George didn't at that time.
All right, we've got a fight card coming up this weekend that I want to get right into before we get some of the MMA news here. We got some fights to talk about. Like I mentioned, Islam Makhachev will be fighting again in October, UFC 294. That fight is official. He'll be defending his title against Charles Oliveira, so we'll get to that. We'll also get to Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev, set to be the co-main event of that card. AJ talked about George St. Pierre. There's talk that George St. Pierre may be grappling Damian Maia at the end of the year. And Dreykus probably not going to be fighting Israel Adesanya in a couple of months. Looks like it might be Sean Strickland, but we'll see. But first, I want to get to this preview. UFC London, it's a task at hand. AJ tried to hijack the show and talk about Bruce Lee, but I want to get to the fights.
Yeah.
Tom Aspinall taking on Marcin Tybura. Tybura is on a 2-fight win streak, recently won back in February with a win by decision over Blagoy Ivanov. Tom Aspinall looking like a real prospect at heavyweight. He was 29 years old. He was beating people left and right. He was finishing people as well. I think he'd finished everybody he'd faced in the UFC. And then he ran into Curtis Blades, and he hurt his knee, blew out his knee in about 15 seconds. And that was it.
Yeah.
So now he's coming back a year later, 30 years old. What is he going to be? He's in London. This is his comeback fight. He's expected to win. He's coming in as a massive favorite, minus 450. Marcin Tybura, plus 350, the underdog. I think there's a lot of factors why Aspinall is such a heavy favorite. I think this fight, pre-knee surgery, pre-knee injury, Aspinall for sure smashes Tybura, and he's a giant favorite, and it makes sense. And I think that's part of the reason why. I think also it's in London, and it does feel like, okay, this is kind of a setup comeback fight for Aspinall. But Marcin Tybura is tough, you know? And I'm always worried about fighters coming in after a serious knee injury. Because we've seen, if your mobility is limited, you could be in real trouble in the octagon. And Aspinall was a heavyweight that moved very well. And sometimes guys don't wait long enough to get back in there. There's a lot of factors. You want to rush back in for money or for the fight or for whatever reason. So he hurt his knee a year ago, and he's back here. I think he should win, but it's like I wouldn't bet on him at minus 450 because that was a bad injury. You blow out your knee, you have to have surgery on your knee. Like, I don't know. It's rough.
Like,
it's rough. And you come back a year later, like, again, Thiago Santos, now, granted, it was both his knees, and he was a little bit older at the time. But
he still did pretty well.
But after he fought John Jones, right, in that fight, he had the surgery, and he was never quite the same after.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, you can have a significant injury and come back and be fine, but sometimes you come back and you're just not the same. You took a year off from the sport. You were sitting around. You weren't really working that hard because you couldn't walk. Then you come back and you're a step behind. Like, we've seen it a lot.
Mirko Krokop.
Especially in the first fight back. I don't know. There's a lot of pressure, too. It's in London.
It's hard, man.
It's not easy. It's not easy. So I think that, he should win here, Tom Aspinall. He looked like a great prospect at heavyweight.
Oof, amazing.
But, how's he going to do? How's that knee feeling? How ready is he? Hopefully he's ready. I'm going to go with Aspinall in the main event, but I'm interested in this fight just to see how Aspinall is going to do. If he's back, if he's the same Aspinall he was before the injury, like, man, it's pretty good.
He's going to be a beast.
You got another heavyweight contender, and you got some fun fights lined up.
And Dave, you got a point there, because anytime it's a leg injury, and I'm saying, like, we haven't seen Conor yet really, perform with that leg injury that he's had. But when you look at guys like Anderson Silva, and I said Mirko Krokop earlier, there's so many leg injuries where they're never the same, man. They've lost that skip. And Thiago Santos is a good example. I mean, he fought better when he had his two legs that were completely gone against John Jones than he did when he got that operation and he came back. The only difference is that Thiago Santos came back a lot earlier. And I think a year off with when you have meniscus problems or ACL problems, I think Aspinall did the right thing. He just concentrated on rebuilding his knees and his legs, I should say, as a whole, and really took the time to stay away. He's 30 years old. That means he's coming into his peak. And coming into the UFC, this guy is like a star, man. This guy is the future. He's a beast. And he's one big boy. He stands at 6'5". He walks around at 256 pounds. This guy's 12-3. Prior to this injury, shit happens. People have lost their knees. I saw Paco Tay. Remember when he was fighting Anderson Silva? That fight, when a knee pops, you're never really the same, but sometimes you can be better. There's some guys that have. I think Pat did pretty well post Anderson Silva, but he wasn't going to be a contender at that point. But to be a contender, you have to be at 100%. Everything is working in sync. We'll see what happens. I think the 1 year off for Aspinall coming into London is going to be a big motivation. I think this guy is still one of the most dangerous fighters in the heavyweight division. And I think Tybura is one beast, but the thing is, he's a very slow-paced fighter. You're going up against a guy like Aspinall who can box, who can strike really hard, and his jiu-jitsu is ridiculous. He's a BJJ black belt. So the only thing that I'm worried about is his wrestling. Is the knee injury and the recovery from the knee injury going to slow down his wrestling? We'll see. If it does, in the first round, if I see Aspinall being able to take down Tybura at will with his wrestling, I'm like, this guy here is going to be dangerous in that division. So he's 30 years old, Dave. He's just coming in to the beginning of many years of domination in this division.
I think you're right. I think he's going to come in and do well. I think he's going to knock out Marcin Tybura. I've got Tom Aspinall by knockout, and the odds on that, odds makers like that, minus 155. So if you're going to bet on Aspinall, like if you're going to throw him in there, Aspinall by knockout makes a lot of sense. Minus
and you know what? That can happen in the first round because 11 out of his 12 victories have come in the first round. This guy comes in to kill right off the bat. He's a beast. His last fight, man, you knew that there was something wrong with him. You know, there was something wrong. The minute that he stepped forward, you knew that there was something. It didn't make sense. A lot of these fighters sometimes have to fight because they've got no choice. The contract is there. The money is there. And you know what? It's like, dude, you're fucked. But, you know, we've seen that many times. Conor McGregor, even when he broke his leg, what people didn't realize is that he had a hairline fracture for weeks. He had problems with his leg. They were working on his leg and working on his leg. Just to say, Dave, it's important to know that sometimes a small injury can lead to something devastating. We saw that many times. Anderson Silva, the same thing. He had a small injury, and it just popped the night of the fight. You know, this is a different story. Aspinall took a year off, man. Surgery, recovery, rehabilitation, man. This guy might come up better than he was before. And if he is, holy smokes, that division's going to be so exciting.
So we've got Aspinall in the main event. The co-main event is the Meatball Molly McCann taking on Julia Stoliarenko. Everybody loves the Meatball out in England. She is a local favorite, so she's going to be co-main eventing. We've got Nathaniel Wood against Andre Feely. Paul Craig taking on Andre Muniz. Craig dropping down to middleweight here. Dropping from light heavy to middleweight. That's an interesting fight. Fares Ziam taking on Jay Herbert, and Lerone Murphy takes on Josh Cooleybow. We got a bunch of other fights on this prelim card as well. What do you think about? I mean, it's not the strongest card. Do you have some picks for me? You want to do a parlay for me, AJ?
Right off the bat, you want to go with that? Okay, you go first.
I don't know. I mean, I think Meatball Molly's gonna win. Minus 220 the favorite.
As long as she doesn't get submitted.
I don't think Stoliarenko's.
She has a nasty armbar, man.
Yeah, but I don't know.
That's her specialty. She's an armbar specialist. And never forget that. That's the thing with this girl. If she gets a hold of that armbar, you know what I'm saying? It's another Ronda Rousey, man. She's coming in to take it off. That's what I'm worried about.
She's 1-4 in the UFC.
Yeah. But the only thing Molly doesn't have is that great, wrestling defense. And her grappling is not at the same level, even though she's lost. Her armbar is dangerous. I'm still going to go with Molly just because of the striking. I think she'll be able to keep her at, away within distance and use her striking to beat her. But if it gets to the ground, man, it's going to be a bad scene.
Yeah, you might be right about that, but I don't think it's going to go there. Like, Molly lost to Erin Blanchfield her last fight, and Erin Blanchfield might be the next champion at 125. She's a killer. Erin Blanchfield's ridiculous. So, yeah, I've got Meatball Molly in the co-main event, and I like Paul Craig. Paul Craig plus 180 as an underdog. I like him. I think that's a good bet. I would just go with Craig, like as a side bet because he's an underdog. I don't know if I'd throw him into my parlay, but let me give you a parlay. You want a parlay, AJ? You're slow on the parlay. You don't want to give me a parlay, so I'll give you one. You know what?
Speak to me, brother. Speak to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Meatball Molly. Definitely going to throw her into my parlay. I did well last week on the parlay. I had a 2-fight parlay that I added a third fight into, and I cashed in on that one. I had I went with Team Dave, the Sadikov and Prado, and then I added Norma Dumont, and she whooped ass. So that was a nice little win there. All right, I'll give you this. I'm going to give you
me, man.
Ketlin Vieira in the prelims. I think she's a slam dunk to beat Pani Kianzad. I've never been overly impressed with Kianzad, and I think Vieira is a monster. I also like Fares Ziam over Jay Herbert. Ziam looks better and better every time he fights. What was his last fight, Ziam? Figlack. Yeah. Oh, he lost to McKinney, though, didn't he? This could be tough, actually. Maybe not Ziam. Herbert isn't that. Yeah, I'm going with Ziam. I got Ziam, although now I'm starting to... You know what? I'm ditching Ziam. Ziam, you're out of my parlay. It's a double ladies parlay. It's Meatball Molly, and it's Ketlin Vieira. And there it is. AJ doesn't like it, but AJ can suck it. AJ's parlay is terrible. There's Meatball Molly minus 220, Ketlin Vieira minus 158. 20 gets you 48.55. It's not a huge payout, but it's what I'm giving you. I didn't like Ziam anymore. I was like, should I put Ziam? So let's see how much it pays out with Ziam. I talked myself out of Fares Ziam as I was looking at him. I was like, yeah, he doesn't have great wrestling. He's fighting a guy from England. This might not go his way. See, with Ziam, it really adds a bunch of flavor to the parlay. It goes from 48 to 80, but I just don't trust him. You're gone,
Dude, I wish I
Ziam.
can talk you out of the Vieira fight, but
Vieira?
listen, man.
Why you want to talk me out of Vieira? What the hell are you talking about?
Listen, man, you're right. Like with Vieira, definitely a strong boxer. She can throw heavy. There's no doubt about it. But the problem is that when she's in the clinch, man, she starts to lose it. And Pani Kiazad is a top kickboxer, and she has a solid clinch game. And if she uses that to her advantage, she's going to pretty much drain out Vieira. I'm just saying that's not my favorite pick on your side.
Too bad.
But
that's Team Dave.
I'm just saying
it's Team
if
Dave.
she gets caught in the clinch, it's going to be like clinch out, man. Fizzle, schnizzle.
You don't even know what that means.
Schnizzle my whizzle.
Schnitzel. I will do no such thing. Give me your parlay.
So listen, man, I'm going to start exactly where we started the show. Tom Aspinall, I think he's definitely the future of that division. Will it be a knockout? I'm pretty sure it'll probably end up like that. I don't think I'm going to see Tom having to, wrestle Marcin. I think he's just going to keep him, up against the octagon and just pound him out. I think it's going to be either a stoppage or a knockout. Then I'm going to go with, this is a tough one. Like I said, Julija, armbar specialist, but you're right. The thing with Molly is she can throw cannons, and she's going to stand up. Her boxing solid. She's going to pretty much outbox her. So I'm not worried about Molly getting armbar there because it's going to be hard for Julija to get in that pocket.
It's just Julia.
Is it?
Yeah.
How do you say Julia? It looks like Julia. How do you are you going to get Julia out of that?
Julija, isn't it? Julia.
Is it? I think it's Julija.
Well,
or Julia.
Your reading isn't
Julia.
great. It's J-U.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this. Every time I say that, I think, as they always say in the UK, AJ's always right what he says. And being that this fight is in the UK,
no one ever says that.
Being in the UK, all of England agrees with AJ.
Oh, my God.
Then I'm going to go with...
One of my buddies this week from Jiu-Jitsu, a young man who's a beast, total monster. He outweighs me by, I found out, about 80 pounds. I was like, I know he's bigger than me, but I didn't we roll all the time, and he doesn't kill me, but I can't do too much. But he's about, I don't know, 12, 13 years younger than me, and he's got about 80 pounds on me. But we roll all the time. He's a buddy of mine, I like him. And he was listening to the show, and he says that you sound like Donald Trump on Adderall. And he likes Donald Trump. He's like pro-Trump, I think. So,
well, good for him.
That's a review, all right? That's a review from a fellow martial artist there, AJ. So
What's his name? What's his name?
So Alan. Shout out to
Alan.
Alan.
Well, Alan. Shout out to Alan, man. Keep it up, bud. Keep it up, dude.
He will. He will. He's there every day.
Good for him, man. Yeah. I'm happy to hear that. What belt is he?
He's a blue belt. We actually got our blue belts at the same time, same day.
Oh, at the same. Well, good for you guys. When you have a kid that young, and obviously he's a big boy. As long as he's a cool guy and a down to earth guy, that's what most jiu-jitsu guys are. There's no real I've met one in the decades plus of being in the world of jiu-jitsu of a real a-hole. And I'll be honest, that a-hole wasn't even a jiu-jitsu guy. He came from some other grappling world. and he came in and I'll just quick story. He was a dick, and he didn't want to grapple with a certain female jiu-jitsu
All right.
athlete. Listen to this. Let me just quickly say this.
Yes.
He came in and didn't want to fight because he doesn't, the girl,
Okay.
he doesn't. Anyways, he had no choice because back in the days, at Gamma, he didn't give a fuck who you were. And I told that guy as he walked by, I said, good luck, buddy. And we literally had to pull the girl off because she was going to bust his arm. And that guy never came back. That was the only dickhead that I've ever seen. But in general, jiu-jitsu guys, no matter how big or how ugly they are or how many tattoos or, whatever, they're really down-to-earth people. The guys and girls, man. There's real little dickheads. So,
Yeah,
Alan,
jiu-jitsu's cool.
keep it up, dude.
Yep.
So let me get back to it, man. I'm going back with my pick here.
Yeah, you got
I'm gonna go
Aspinall,
with,
you got Molly McCann. Who else are you going on your parlay?
I'm taking Andre Feely, touchy-feely, to beat Nathaniel Wood.
Touchy-feely, yep, I like him.
Yeah.
Plus
Look,
166 underdog, too.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
And then I'm going to go with another
Wood's
underdog.
from there, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Is he from? Yeah. But it's just a size advantage. Look, Nathaniel Wood looked good when he fought Charles Jourdain. Andre Feely, obviously, he's a solid veteran, man. A lot of experience, man. But it's going to be a tough one. But he has the size advantage. I think he'll be able to pull it off. Then I'm going to go with Paul Craig because I think as Paul Craig, I believe he's an underdog as well. But one thing is, he's coming into the middleweight division. This guy is dangerous. We seen him submit people that shouldn't have lost, and he's able to do it. Paul Craig comes in, man. He comes like Braveheart. He comes in to fight. He's going to be in a lot of hometown fans there. He's going to perform, and I think he's going to dominate Muniz. Even though I don't know why, they got Muniz as the favorite.
There's a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. But Paul Craig's submission and grappling skills are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But remember this, jiu-jitsu, for the sport of jiu-jitsu is one thing, but jiu-jitsu in MMA is a completely different game. So that's where it comes down to. I don't care how many stripes you have. Remember, this is jiu-jitsu MMA, and that's where I think Paul Craig has that advantage over him.
Yep, I agree with that. I think Craig wins.
Yeah, I think Craig is gonna. I hope. I mean, every time we go against him, we realize what a mistake we did again. Paul Craig is so talented.
Not last time when Johnny Walker beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, but everybody has a bad day. Fuck everybody. But still, I don't think. Look,
I think he'll win.
Anything can happen.
Yeah,
I think he'll win.
Yep.
And then let me see. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go right down that card. I'm gonna go down with Ziam, man. I'm gonna take Ziam for the win.
All right.
I think he's a heavy favorite.
I kicked him out of my parlay, and you're taking him. All right,
why?
You take him.
I'm taking him.
And then why? I'm going to talked about it, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Ziam.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go with the final would be my. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go with 6 fights, man. If he's on
it's a 6-fight main card. Cooleybow or Murphy?
Yeah, I'm going with Leron Murphy. Yes, Leron Murphy, man. He's 12-0. This kid, he is dangerous. He is like a very high prospect in the featherweight division. Super sharp, super powerful. He's going to pull it off. I like this parlay of mine, man. I feel good, man.
I'm glad that you feel good. Here is your parlay. Tom Aspinall, Molly McCann, Andre Feely, Paul Craig, a couple dogs there, Faraz Ziam, and Lerone Murphy. 20 gets you $766.42.
That's a pretty nice payout, dude.
I mean, it's better than my payout, that's for sure. Will it come through?
And I feel confident on that.
I don't know.
I feel confident, man.
Well, I would bet it then if you feel confident. You
Yeah,
say you
I'm
feel
gonna do it.
confident, but you rarely actually put the money down. You know that I do every week. Get a little bit
That
of
you
money.
do, bud. That you do.
That I do. Every week I put the money down, and I basically break even. Sometimes I lose, sometimes I win. I'm even Steven. So Tom Aspinall, Molly McCann, Andre Feely, Paul Craig, Faraz Ziam, and Lerone Murphy, a gigantic 6-fight parlay for UFC London that takes place Saturday afternoon. If you're watching us here in North America, Saturday afternoon, because it's in London, it'll be nighttime over there, but afternoon time over here for us. So you want to get your bets in. You want to get your bets in early. I'm hearing.
Me too. Every time I hear I heard something and I'm like, oh no. Yeah, the little one. Oh man. crazy. What a crazy week, dude. This week has been like so bizarre. You're good, Dave? You got to escape?
I'm
Nice
good.
haircut, by the way. You kind of look like George St. Pierre, man.
That's right. I am George St. Pierre. So George St. Pierre, Damian Maia put out a thing saying, hey, I'm really excited to be grappling George St. Pierre, blah, blah, blah. But apparently he's not necessarily the guy that'll be grappling George St. Pierre.
I think it's what I said, man, from the beginning. I really believe.
I think he's just trying to do it, but
Listen, I still pull out that hope that we're gonna hear George St. Pierre versus Khabib. I really want to see that. You know, everything's good.
yeah.
You know,
Thanks.
I know, man.
People
Listen,
are there.
yeah, thank God, man. I'm telling you, this is the problem with kids, man. You nothing can be normal, man. So that's what I'm saying, dude. I really believe that it would be a better grappling event, and a really one of those things where people who haven't seen George St. Pierre fight in a long time, and people that always had that question, who would win between George and Khabib? It's not going to happen in MMA, but in a grappling match,
No,
it's just as close.
No,
It's
not
just
happening.
as close.
It's
I'm
not happening.
telling you, man. Give me some hope, Dave.
No,
You know, a
I'll
lot of
give you-
people are
I'll
saying
throw-
that now.
No, I'm going to throw some cold water on that hope and tell you that Khabib's coach, I think, spoke to Javier Mendez, who runs AKA, one of Khabib's MMA coaches, says that Khabib is spending time with his family and he's not going to be grappling George and he's got no interest in that. And it's just not happening. It will not be Khabib. It might be Damian Maia. Damian Maia seems willing to do it. But George St. Pierre is looking for an opponent, preferably a current or former UFC legend or a big name, to grapple him at the Fight Pass Invitational in December. We're all wondering who it's going to be. There was news that it was Damian Maia, but again, I think it was MMA Junkie reporting that it's not actually a done deal with Damian Maia, and there's no
That's gonna be a hard
official
one.
opponent yet. I think you're right in Khabib being the most interesting one, but I don't think it's going to happen. Damian Maia would have been fun, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen either. Well, it might.
You never know.
I think it's on the
Yeah,
table.
but it's not.
I think it's
but
on the
thing
table.
is,
But honestly, like if you compare it to the other names that have been thrown around, like Anderson Silva or Nick Diaz or Nate Diaz or Khabib, Damian Maia kind of feels like,
yeah, it's not as. Yeah,
it's cool.
I mean,
Damian
in
Maia is a great
jiu-jitsu-
grappler. I think if you're like a person that likes grappling like we do, it's a good grappling matchup, and we could see the merit in that. But at the same time, it's like, it'll be nice and respectful and friendly. Like, it'll be competitive, but it won't be like that exciting. Like, oh my God, like if it was Nick Diaz.
does it have to be?
If it
Does
was
it have to
Anderson
be a guy?
Silva, even if it was Anderson Silva or Khabib, it would be guys that like George almost fought, so it would be like George fighting them, but not actually, like a version of that. But with Damian Maia, it was never like, ooh, dream fight George against Damian Maia. That was never a thing. They never fought. They were in different weight classes for the most part. I know Damian did fight for a while there at welterweight, but they never fought. I don't think it was ever like a big dream match, so I don't know.
But
It doesn't
what,
do
Dave?
much for me. Does it do anything for you? Like,
No, it does. Look, if I have to look at it for the jiu-jitsu aspect, Damian Maia, one of the greatest, probably the best jiu-jitsu fighter in the UFC or any mixed martial arts organization.
yeah.
But the thing is that you want to see somebody that has a little bit more fireworks. He's so like chill, Damian Maia, that it doesn't spark enough interest. But I was thinking about it. If it wouldn't be Khabib, who would spark me? Like I'm saying, in the jiu-jitsu world, I'd be like, man, wouldn't it be crazy if you see a guy like Gordon Ryan against like George St. Pierre?
That's not going to happen. George already said that's the one guy he won't grapple because he knows how that's going to go. There's no point.
Well, wouldn't you want to see that? I want to see it.
No.
That would
I don't
excite
need to
me
see
more.
Gordon tap George with a heel hook in 2 minutes. Why? That's what
Listen,
would
man,
happen.
George.
Gordon is like so much bigger than him, and he is the best no-gi grappler in the world,
Well, right now
possibly
he's not
ever.
looking that
So
great.
well, come on, man.
Yeah, I know he's not looking that great, but I'm just saying, like, who other than Khabib would like Diaz? Okay, big deal. Okay, well, Yeah, it would be exciting to see
Anderson,
Diaz.
Silva.
Anderson Silva, George would look. Look. You need to get somebody who's at least close to age of George, either between like I don't know, man, like in his 40s, 35, 40. You know, I don't want to see like guys
I'd
that
like
are
to see him
in their
grapple.
50s. Man.
I'd like to see him grapple Kamaru Usman. Two of the
Usman
greatest
would lose.
welterweight champions ever. Usman's
Yeah,
a hell
that
of a
could be.
wrestler.
No, he's a hell of a wrestler, but man, he doesn't have like the submission skills like
No.
George. I don't
No.
think. But it still would be interesting because it depends who takes the dominant position, right?
It's just a cool
Who's the better
matchup.
wrestler?
Yeah, that's it.
Like if somebody takes the top part,
Mhm.
the top half or the top game, it could be a different story.
Yeah.
Because if Usman gets top half on George, you know it's George defending all the way.
Yeah.
But if George gets top half on Usman, it's vice versa, right?
And we also
So
don't know the rules. Like, are there points? Is it submission only? Like, it's still unclear what the rules of the match will even be.
Listen, for something like that, it can't be points. It has to be submission. And if there's no submission after 15 minutes, then you declare it a draw. But there needs to be a submission. In fights with those type of names, you need to have a real winner and loser. Points sometimes, you know, people can be very sneaky at points. You don't have to be the best grappler to beat someone in points. You know, sometimes, you know, I wasn't the best at points. I'm saying like some guys are able to get great points. It's like, what the fuck? What did I do? I made a mistake and I lost 2 points.
Yeah.
That sucks. You know, it's like, you know, advantage. Oh, like this guy got an advantage. I don't agree that he got an advantage. I don't want anything that could be questionable. I want to be fact. Knockout or submission. And
Well,
if
it's
it's
a grappling
jiu-jitsu match,
yeah.
but that's what I'm trying to say. If it's a stand-up game, I just want to see, like, keep fighting till you get knocked out. Bare knuckles, there you go. But, you know, it's a jiu-jitsu match. It has to be decided by someone really tapping out. That's it. There's no lucky tap out. You know this guy's the declared winner. He's the champ. That's what I want to see. I want to see a submission only. 15 minutes and then overtime. You know, give these guys like, you know, 10 minutes of like recovery and then get into like the final like 5 minutes. You know, take it to a 20-minute match. You know, that would be exciting to me because you would get to see who's in better conditioning at that point, right? Conditioning is what wins in the end. So, you know, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would, you know, I think there's a lot of good options there for George. But Maya, I mean, it's cool, but I don't know if it would get people talking.
Not enough,
you know,
man.
I don't think it would get the buzz going that you want.
No, man,
I
it's
think you
not
want
like
more buzz.
No, you want like, you know, it's like not the same, you know, like maybe 20 years ago, it could have been pretty exciting. You know, kind of like the Pamela Anderson video back then. It was like, ooh, so cool. That's crazy. But nowadays, it's like, that's nothing, man. You know, people on TikTok perform like crazier than that. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, dude.
All right.
We
I am not on TikTok, so I don't know.
Well, Ringside is. So if you want to come and follow us, Ringside Report on TikTok. Really good page. A lot of exciting stuff.
I don't condone
There's no nudity.
I don't condone it.
But you know what I'm trying to say? It's not the same, man. It's like, you know, if you want George now.
You want a fun fight? Here's a fun fight.
Yeah.
Your boy, Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev, UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi in October. Boom.
That's going to be crazy, man.
That is sick. That is a money fight. I think Khamzat will smash. He will smash.
Look, you know what? Khamzat is like he's the most dangerous beast. He's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or whatever you want to call it, or Hidden Dragon, Crouching Tiger, whatever you want. He's that dangerous, man. He's just like he's there and he's in the waiting. We need to have him fight more often. This guy is so dangerous. But Costa's a beast, man. He is a beast, but I don't think he has enough to beat Khamzat. You got to really be out there at 100%, like, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually to be able to fight a guy like that. Because this guy comes in and he enjoys hurting people. You can see it in his face. He enjoys it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be undersized either at middleweight. I'm happy that he's finally picked a weight division. We know where he's fighting. We know who he's fighting. It's Paulo Costa. It's a big fight at middleweight. If he wins this, he's in the mix for a title shot.
Oh, yeah.
Cool as hell. I mean, we're getting to the point now with Khamzat where when we first started seeing him fight, you thought he was going to be a champion at some point, and now he's getting close. He's sniffing around the belt. He's sniffing around the top 10, top 5 of a weight class. At first, it was welterweight and middleweight. He missed weight so badly for his last welterweight fight. I think they decided 185 is where you got to be. And I'm happy with that because we need more contenders in every division, and Khamzat is a very fun contender. I think he beats Paulo Costa, and then who knows? I think UFC's going to have some interesting questions because this fight is a month after their middleweight title fight. Israel Adesanya is the main event for UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia. So they had one half of a title fight, but they didn't have the other half. So they booked a pay-per-view in Sydney. They told Israel, you will defend your belt on this pay-per-view, but they didn't necessarily have an opponent. It looked like it was going to be the winner of Dricus and Robert Whittaker from the last UFC pay-per-view. But Dricus is not ready to have a fight 7 or 8 weeks turnaround from his last fight, which is reasonable, right? It's not a long time to prepare for Israel Adesanya traveling over to Australia. It's a lot for Dricus. So Dricus apparently is not taking that fight. And Israel Adesanya was not too happy about it. Did you see the video?
No.
Oh.
This has been my worst week, dude. I've been out of the loop for everything.
Well, perfect. I can show you and the rest of our excellent viewers at the same damn time, if I could figure out what the hell I'm doing over here. Hang on. All right. Israel Adesanya talking about the Dricus fight that seems like it's not happening. This is on his Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Here he is, the champ.
Dricus the pussy. You fucking bitch. Oh, all you had to do is put on some gloves. I was ready to go again. No, you weren't. You're a bitch. That's why I'm not taking this fight. Your foot sore. Nigga, my knee was jacked 2 weeks from my last fight. Guess what I did? I showed up because that's what a fucking champion does. Championship caliber. Built different. A lot of you fighters talk about, oh, I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. No, you won't. I do. Alex Volkanovski does. We're built different. I'm at the gym right now. About to get some work. So, I'm fighting in Sydney. I don't give a fuck who. Dickless, the pussy. Dickless. Fuck off. You're out. Strickland, you're in. Let's do the man dance. Show you how to really dance. Yeah. But yeah, I title what you guys talking shit about. I can fight. No, you can't. The pussy.
There you go.
A lot of pussy in there.
Oh, wow. Israel not
damn.
holding back. So, Dricus doesn't want the fight. Sean Strickland just picked up a win, and it looks like Sean Strickland is going to get the fight. But I just saw an interview that Sean Strickland did, and he's like, yeah, we'll see. I think I'm probably going to do it, but we're negotiating, and the money's got to be right. So Strickland is down to do it, but he's going to make sure he gets paid the right thing. So that's still not a done deal. Even though Israel Adesanya is saying, well, Strickland, you're up next, da-da-da. That's what the UFC is telling Israel probably. But Sean Strickland just did an interview with Helen Yee that I just watched before doing the show. I was like, oh, new Sean Strickland interview talking about the title fight. Is he taking this fight? And he's like, yeah, money. So I don't know. I don't know if this fight's actually happening. And if Sean Strickland can't agree to the money with the UFC, what do they do? Because, at this point, okay, you don't have Dickless the Pussy or whatever you want to call it. I thought that was a pretty good one. Come on, Dricus Duplessis to Dickless the Pussy. That's pretty tremendous wordplay there by Israel Adesanya. That's good. I can't deny it. It was a good one. It's a good one. But if you don't have him, you don't have old Drikey, and you don't have Strickland because he wants the money, you really don't have many options for your pay-per-view here that you need. So Sean Strickland's got to get paid. Sean Strickland's got all the cards right now, and the UFC needs to pay that man because, it's his time. They need him for this fight. Otherwise, they really have nobody for Adesanya. They have nobody.
Listen, and you're right. I think they should pay him. I think he's got that same, persona like the Diaz brothers. He's got that, you either hate him, either you like him or you hate him. He says some ridiculous things, but he is a character, and that's what sells. Again, this is the entertainment business. it's, yes, it's martial arts, but it's still an entertainment business. So, like, pay the guy and let's get the fight going, man.
Hopefully. They don't have a ton of time either because, like I said, this fight's in September. It's like 7 weeks away. So they need to get somebody, and that somebody needs to get ready. So big fight there that they're hoping to make, but it doesn't look like Dreykus will be the man, which is disappointing because I wanted to see the Battle of Africa, Dreykus versus Israel, to see who gets to call themselves African. I think the loser had to say that they were no longer African. I'm pretty sure. And Dreykus would have had to move. I think he would have had to leave South Africa.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
crazy?
that was part of the stipulations. Damn. No, I'm making that up.
Okay, I thought that was real. I'm like,
how would they get that to happen in a contract, AJ? What are you talking about?
You write it. Listen, you write it. You know what? I think that's a great way to. That would be good, man.
Whoever wins, the other guy has to stop calling themselves African because they're both like Dreykus is like, I really live in Africa, so and Israel's like, I was born in Nigeria. Fuck you, and you're a white guy in South Africa. Let's be real. And then everybody's like, whoa. So how about if Israel loses, he can't say he's African anymore. And, which he's done before. There is a video of him saying, I'm not African, I'm Chinese, which Sean Strickland will be telling you about over the next few weeks for sure. If you haven't seen that video, it's out there. Yeah, that's a video that's out there too. And then, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Crazy shit,
if Dreykus loses, I guess he would have had to leave South Africa. Leave his home, leave his family, just move to a different country and stop calling himself African. Or maybe he could stay in South Africa, just say that he's not African somehow. I don't know. I think that would have been fun. But we're not doing that. We're going to have Sean Strickland against Israel Adesanya in a fight to see who could say the N-word the most in a press conference. And only one of them is allowed to say it, but both of them probably say it a lot.
Oh, man. Crazy times, man. But it makes it exciting, man. I love
times, frightening, horrifying times everywhere. Islam Makhachev, the UFC lightweight champion, the absolute monster from Dagestan, Khabib number 2, he's going to be fighting Charles Oliveira again. UFC 294 in October. They had no other options for Islam Makhachev. I think Leon Edwards would have been super fun, but they don't want to do that. Volk isn't around or ready to take the fight, so it's Oliveira, who looked really good in his last fight, but the fight before that, but the fight right before that, he got smashed by Islam Makhachev, and he just got completely destroyed. So, I don't know. I'm not that hyped for this one. This is not really a fight that I need to see. I think Islam will come in as massive. He's going to come in as a massive favorite, and he's going to win basically the same way. So, why?
Look, it could be that Charles had just like some problem that we didn't know about, and that's why he got destroyed to that level. But you're right. I mean, I'd like to see the fight again, just to say, like, no, Islam really dominated this guy, and he's going to dominate him again. But you know what? It's a fun fight to watch. Charles Oliveira, man, like he deserves that fight again.
Why?
Just because he gave so much, man.
Dariush?
Look, man, Dariush was no joke, man. Like, Beneil Dariush was no joke. I didn't think it was going to end the way it did. Charles is a beast, man, But, yeah, I think it's probably going to end up the same way you said, like Islam winning. But, shit happens. We'll never know. What was I going to say? There's a couple of fighters removed from the UFC, eh? I don't know if you knew that Blagoy is gone. Okay. Like, it's too bad. I like Blagoy. I thought he would, he was okay.
It happens.
He had a crazy history. Shit happens, man. And then when I was surprised when I was reading about your buddy, The Rock, man. So a lot of UFC fighters are starting to diss him. Like, I'm like, what the hell's going on with The Rock?
Because they have to wear the Under Armour Rock shoes and they don't get paid for it, right? The UFC gets paid and they make the fighters do it. It's not really The Rock's fault. It's kind of the UFC's fault, isn't it? They made the deal.
Man. I know, dude, but still, man, it's Rock stuff. I think The Rock should have looked at this a little bit deeper.
Maybe.
Because you don't want to become like I don't know, man, like the greedy guy, man, because you have that image as The Rock. Don't start like losing that image because, I think there should have been a different agreement. Maybe they got to renegotiate this so that the fighters can get paid. I mean, these guys are putting their life on the line. I mean, when you get into the octagon, it's not like, you're just going to walk out. I mean, you could die. We've seen that many times in boxing. Thank God, you haven't seen it too much in the UFC or in it's happened in MMA, but, these guys need to be paid, a little bit more. And I think that should be part of every UFC fighter to get a share of whatever they're promoting. Because back in the days, man, they were making a lot more money, especially guys that are not on the top 10 or on the top 15, all the way down to the top to number 50. They were still making money off of sponsors and having a career where they can support the sport that they love. But when you get to the UFC and you're fighting on these big cards, man, every fighter should have some stake on wearing Rock stuff. And not only The Rock,
Yeah.
any sponsor that's there.
Well, how about your boy?
They should get something.
How about your boy Logan Paul? How much are the fighters getting off of Prime? That was the energy drink, whatever sponsor of the UFC.
I
What
agree
about
with that too.
I don't think they're
I
getting a
agree.
cut from that either. It's not good.
Well, you know what?
But that's
No, it's
honestly
not good.
on the UFC to say, hey, we got these sponsors, and now the fighters each get a cut. It's on the UFC more than it's on the sponsors. But it's on the sponsors, too. I guess they could do some due diligence and be like, are the fighters getting this? But I think it's more on the UFC to determine what they pay their fighters rather than the sponsors of the UFC. But, hey, how about Jamal Hill? He drops the UFC light heavyweight title. He's no longer the champion. He tore his Achilles, and that's it. He's not the champion anymore, which... second champion in a row now to drop the belt due to injury. That championship belt was cursed. John Jones left it in a curse. Or maybe it was the magic rope from Jan Blachowicz, right? He was the last kind of defending champion at light heavyweight. He loses the belt to Glover, and then Glover, I don't know, he lost it immediately to Yuri, and then Yuri blew out his shoulder, and then Jamal Hill fights Glover. Jamal Hill beats Glover, and then he tears his Achilles. Maybe it's the Jan Blachowicz magic rope working its magic to finally bring the belt back to Jan, because there is talk that Jan versus Alex Pereira coming up, I think, next weekend. It's probably not going to be for the belt. There was talk that it would be for the belt, and honestly, a win for Jan Blachowicz next week over Alex Pereira puts him in a very good spot to be fighting for the championship, a vacant title, whatever. So... yeah, UFC lost their light heavyweight champion. So Jamal Hill, Achilles, you could be out for over a year. And that's another injury where, you don't quite come back. You don't have the same spring in your step. It's kind of tough. It's a
nasty one. Basketball players get that a lot. And let me tell you, that can make or break a career, especially when you're playing college, college game or college basketball, and you lose your Achilles. That could be the end of your career right there, man. You're not going to the NBA. You're not going anywhere. And in mixed martial arts, that Achilles, man, if it doesn't repair properly, man, there goes your quick steps, your kicks, and just your back step when you're just coming back to throw out another kick.
Yeah.
I mean, it could pop, man. I've seen Achilles pops, live. And let me tell you, man, you go down so fast, and it's nasty. It's I've never had that. I've had Achilles issues, but not tears, thank God. But people that have got tears, man, it's something that you can't explain. It's like that elastic band that snaps, and you're done. Surgery right away. You got no choice. You're done. And it's a bad injury, man. And that could be it could be a career ending for Jamal.
Yeah, hopefully he can heal up and be back and be all right. But
I hope so.
It's one you don't hear about too much in MMA. It's not a very common MMA injury, so that's a rough one, especially as he gets to the top of his career. He's the world champion, and then
sucks, man.
Yeah, it's
maybe the rope is. Maybe you got a point with the rope because that rope.
I don't know what it is, but it's bad luck with that light heavyweight title. Yuri and now Jamal Hill.
Yeah,
what are the odds?
Weird.
It's not something that happens very often in the UFC, where a fighter gets so hurt in training that they have to drop the championship entirely because they won't be back for over a year and they're just screwed. But Yuri did it, and now Jamal Hill does it, and they're in the same division, same championship. It's like, well, what's happening here at light heavyweight? Some sort of voodoo, some sort of magic. It's
And here
the
comes
only
back
way
Yan.
to explain these things, AJ. I mean, it's not like it's happening at featherweight or bantamweight or
heavyweight.
or heavyweight or middleweight. Like, it's not happening in any other weight class. Light heavyweight seems to be cursed. So give the belt back to Jan Blachowicz so he could break the curse and everybody could be all right. I think
Well,
that's
he
the
won't break
safest
the
bet.
curse. He'll just carry it on and be the champion. But you know what? I completely forgot about the rope till you brought it tonight, man. And,
Wow.
you know, if people don't know what the hell we're talking about, do a Google search on, you know, Yan and the magic
I could
rope.
put it simply.
And
you don't have
this
to
is
Google
no
it.
joke. It's
I
real.
could just put it simply. He found a rope of a man who had hung himself in the forest, and he kept the noose for some reason, and it had some sort of significance as magic rope. And it
Well, actually, the truth
carried
is,
him
after he took
forward to
yeah,
the championship somehow.
it did. It did. He
Magic
ended
rope.
up winning, like, literally. Yeah, it was
He
incredible.
believed in it. He believed in the magic
I
suicide
mean,
rope.
he made us believe in it. I
well,
mean,
he
you know,
made you believe in it.
well,
I'm
maybe
joking.
there's some truth. Maybe there's some truth.
joking about the belt being cursed. I don't actually believe that. That's
I don't
a
know.
joke.
Maybe
It's
you
just
made me a believer, dude.
coincidence.
You made me a believer. You convinced me.
Yeah, I convinced
I'm
you
just
with
telling you.
nonsense, which is how most people on the internet convince you and trick you into things.
Maybe there's a lot of people now that believe, like, maybe Dave's got a point. So put your money on the magic rope, man.
Oh my god. See, that's the problem. I have to tell you I'm joking sometimes because you take me seriously and you're like, Dave believes in magic
But
ropes. I'm like,
hold
no,
on a sec.
No,
wait.
I don't. No, I don't.
Let's be clear on this. There is a magic rope. It's not like Dave is
There
joking about
is a
that.
magic rope, but
Yeah.
I don't believe in magic ropes. AJ does. Jan Blachowicz does, but Dave does not believe in magic or hocus pocus.
Well, you
or-
believe in magic mushrooms. That I can assure you that.
Well, I know that they work because I've used them. They're effective. Silly.
There's that magic that you believe in. But
Yeah.
I'm going to tell
And
you.
I've never seen
you know-
God on those, all right? I've just, had a good time. So let me tell you about another injury. Umar Nurmagomedov.
Okay.
He's hurt.
What?
He was supposed to fight in like 2 weeks. He was main eventing
No.
UFC Nashville against Corey Sanhagen, and he's hurt. Rob Font.
Damn.
Rob Font will step in for the main event of UFC Nashville against Sanhagen, but that was supposed to be a big main event, big fight for
That sucks.
Umar. And Umar is hurt, so he's out of that fight
Wow.
in a couple of weeks' time, which sucks. A lot of injuries, and, things get shifted around, and things happen. And that's MMA
terrible.
for you. I will be back here tomorrow night with Johnny North to talk professional wrestling. Johnny will be back. Everybody's abandoning me lately. Johnny wasn't with me last week on Wrestling Uncensored. AJ wasn't with me on Ringside Report. Fred's not with me tonight. Like, what is happening? But Johnny will be back with me tomorrow, and everything will be right in the world, and we'll be happy again, and everything will be fine. Shout out to Angelo Contagonis watching us in the chat. Be like Angelo. Go to join.ringsidereport.net. Join.ringsidereport.net. $5 a month supports the Ringside Report Network. Keeps us going. The members are the lifeblood of the channel. Guys like Angelo. And that's all the members that I saw in the chat tonight. But I know you guys are out there. Shout out to all the members. We appreciate you guys supporting the Ringside Report Network. Members like Alice Shanks. Members like Angelo Contagonis, Harold Schneider, Antoinette. So many people I'm seeing around doing the thing, supporting the channel, supporting AJ. All right, I'll be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after SmackDown for Wrestling Uncensored, right here on the Ringside Report Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, pro wrestling and MMA fans from around the world, we have a special message just for you. Are you ready to take your love for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts to the next level? If so, then listen closely because we have an offer you won't want to miss. The Ringside Report Network brings you the best of the squared circle and the octagon. We're here today to invite you to become a member of our exclusive community. Our vibrant and passionate community of members is waiting to welcome you with open arms. Connect with like-minded fans, share your opinions, and engage in lively discussions about the latest matches, epic rivalries, and upcoming events. Together, we'll celebrate the adrenaline-fueled world of pro wrestling and MMA. There's nobody on the internet that has as much knowledge and insight on this entertaining world of combat sports as we do. Please consider supporting the Ringside Report Network right now by going to membership.ringsidereport.net. That's membership.ringsidereport.net. Or if you want to join our YouTube channel, go to join.ringsidereport.net. Only members are invited to call into our shows, and we really want to hear from you. Don't wait another second, my friends. This is your opportunity to become a part of something extraordinary. Join the Ringside Report Network Pro Wrestling and MMA channel today and witness the action, drama, and excitement like never before. We can't wait to welcome you to our growing family of wrestling and MMA enthusiasts. Remember, together, we're going to make some noise and celebrate the incredible world of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. Thanks for joining us today, and we can't wait to speak